A couple of quick things that's going on that I've been working on. If you've been paying a little bit of attention to what's going on, of course, the tragedy in Connecticut was truly a devastating tragedy. But as a result, gun control has been a topic of discussion. And one of the things that really came at that really irked me more was out of Rochester, New York. A couple weeks ago, a newspaper decided to publish all the names and addresses and the guns that people own that were legal permit owners. I mean, these are people who abided by the Second Amendment, did the right thing, applied for their permits, bought their guns, followed with the local law enforcement authority, did what they were supposed to do. This newspaper decides to print them. Aside from printing law-abiding citizens, you also got to think about Secret Service, FBI, local law enforcement, state police. They all live in municipalities. For them to be law-abiding citizens and purchase a gun, they have to go through the same process as any of us would have to go through. You have to go to your local police department, get your permit. Now their names and addresses are being published. Now you're talking about retaliation coming out of the jails. People are going up to jail guards now saying, I know where you live. We know what the guns you own. And in New Jersey specifically, we had State Commission of Investigation done on gang activity in jails where the gang members are retaliating and intimidating jail guard members. And it's really discouraging because, first off, it takes a lot to want to work in a jail and be a corrections officer, but the fact to sit there and be intimidated and humiliated, and I mean, to a point where I had private interviews with people where gang members were coming up saying, I know what time your daughter gets on the school bus, and they were telling the location and the time. Now, as a father of a 6-year-old, I would want to rip someone's head out. And that's full disclosure. So what these guys are going through, these men and women are going through, is to have their names and addresses published. It's horrific. So in New Jersey, we have a regulation. It's not a law that the information does not have to be released. Basically, New Jersey regulation can be changed with the stroke of a pen through any administration. So I've introduced legislation. Senator Singer is going to do this on the Senate side that would actually codify the regulation and make it a law. So no future administrations can ever come in and change this and say, you know what, that's a good idea. Let's let this information become public. So it's just bad in so many different ways. And we were talking earlier before, if you're paying attention about the whole idea of what was going on in New York, they had there's already been one burglary in a home that was listed in the paper. That was a gun owner, and their gun safe was tried to pry the gun safe open. Again, is it related? We don't know, but it's just coincidence that their name and address was published in the paper 2 weeks earlier, and then there was a burglar at the house. So it's just another way, one, protecting the people, but it's just a really good law and public safety issue that we should be working on. And I was invited to go on CNN to talk about my bill, and they called me up. It was on CNN Headline News, and I was on at 10 o'clock in the morning. It was so funny because they said, we just want you to come on and talk about your bill. I'm like, that's it? Yeah, I just want to talk about your bill. So I'm sitting there, they put me in a room. I got the headphone on. I'm by myself because I'm in Philly, and they're going out of Atlanta. All of a sudden, Gabby Gifford comes on from Arizona. And then the most anti-gun woman comes on about gun control. I'm like, they're not talking about my bill. I had to change gears real fast because they came after me saying, I was wrong, and they're right that all this information should be published. Well, I think what's going to happen, you're hearing so many different talks. The President of the United States is now talking about maybe doing an executive order because he doesn't want to deal with Congress on gun control to try to override it. Constitutionally, I don't know where he stands with that. I would have to think that he doesn't have the ability to do that. You're talking about the Second Amendment here. Number two is in New Jersey, there's been a whole host of laws that have been introduced. The question is how fast do they move them? Again, you're coming into an election year, so you have a Republican governor, Democratic-controlled houses. They're probably going to put the bills up to make Republicans vote either against the gun control, so they can say the Republicans want guns in everybody's hands, as they always do, or two, they're going to say that, and then put the governor in a hard spot whether he signs or vetoes. I can tell you as a police officer, as a retired police officer, I don't know, when they talk about I don't know where the clarification is on some of the legislation. When you're talking about a 7-round magazine, I mean, most police officers carry minimum 15 rounds. So, I mean, they have to have that firepower, and I don't know how you're going to limit the citizens, how they're going to do that with. It's just, I just think the gun control is getting a little bit out of control. We need to take a deep breath and do the right thing. And I think the common denominator that comes out of it all is a psychological background. And I think that's something we need to be focusing on most primarily is who's gaining these guns and how are they getting them. And if there is a change in behavior somewhere along the line with a gun owner, then put it on the onus of the doctor to make that notification that this person is no longer stable I'm sensing a problem and let the state police deal with it from that respect. But, you know, as a retired police officer, I have a permit to carry, and I have to fill out paperwork every year. And they do mental health checks on me, they do everything, they do the entire run every year, once a year, to make sure all my records are clear. So, I mean, if they can do it for me, they can do it for every.
Does that include the whole family, or is just you a personal?
Just me.
Personal, so they don't really look at your background, your family, how many kids you have, how old they are?
No, they don't, those questions don't come up.
Maybe they should, you know.
Again, that's why I think that's what this is all about, it should be for discussion, because it's, I mean, right there is one good point. Maybe that's something we should be looking at, but no one's discussing that aspect, they're just talking about just limiting the guns. Let's just go after the guns right away.
Yeah.
On behalf of our membership, I want to thank you for not only